Hi, good afternoon. This is Elaine. Hope you're doing well today. I wanted to follow up on a short video. It's not gonna take that long, but I just wanted to follow up and say hello. I wanted to talk about something that's pretty much on my mind, and to be honest, it's something that I've always been challenged with. So it's something called trust, and I know that I've actually posted on my Instagram this trust dollar bill, and it's on there for a reason. Basically 2 years ago I did post a photo with a dollar bill, and then I've written on there quote unquote trust. So the reason being I put that is because it's just a reminder that basically all truths must be spoken. So basically last week I did put that I pretty much already had forgiven myself. So yeah, it's time to actually put that old chapter behind and step into a new one. So as I'm speaking to you right now with the utmost respect, and in the last video I know I'd stated that I would chase after the things that I want, not necessarily force them to happen, but I will actually put in the effort. I came up with a guide, basically a guide to pinpoint which characteristic is actually the highest. And in order to actually find this out, I've created a graph, basically a graph, and it's actually quite simple. In this graph you choose the top 8 things that you like, or top 7, or it could be top 10, and you just list it out like so. So basically this is the guide, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to combine the speech into music with art, dance, psychology, and motivation. So this is basically the top 8 things that I've come up with, and as you can see, it's all listed here by numbers. So if you're thinking with your mind and you're acting upon your heart, let's actually graph this out in a logical aspect. So, if you were to just put this as okay, this is a percentage out of 100, and you list the items out. So right now it's number 1, to inspire, and of course to inspire with the mind. With the mind out of 100, I would basically rate that as 50%. And then the inspire would be 100%. And then basically you total it up right here. Based on your interest and how much you've actually liked this program, or like this basically this basic these choices that you have laid out as a foundation to where you want to proceed next. So I've created this to make it easier for someone, just in case they have a lot of things that they actually want to go for, except, you know what I mean, they don't know which topic or idea to go for. And I made it quite simple to actually narrow this down, so that way, with this guide, it's easier for you to navigate which topic you actually want to go for. So I've written down some of these, and the top 4 that I found out that I actually combine both mind and heart, and it actually just makes sense, you know what I mean, is these top 4. And this is the pretty much narrowed summarization of the top ideas or topics that you want to pursue, you know what I mean, and you list it right here, and it actually narrows it down, makes it easier for someone to choose. So yeah, anyways, top 4: motivation, empowerment, leadership, music, and inspiration. I also wanted to note, since we're actually speaking truths out here, and based on my last video, I did post something on, basically just a quick story on things, and also something I want to just be open about. And if you're being open with yourself in all the aspects where you're not hiding anything, then this is it. This is your chance. This is your way of expressing yourself. And I'm like, well, I like to express myself in this logical manner, but at the same time creatively. I'd like to add a little bit of spice with music in it, and to motivate someone with music and the arts is basically a venture that is worth stepping into, that I've never tried. So we'll see how that goes. But and I just wanted to bring up something that I posted to and it says that basically to cross over to a new endeavor, you have to let go of the shackles that's holding it down. So the shackles that was holding it down was all of that weight that I had to carry 2 years ago, and I'm like, I'm done with this. It's time to move on. So I did. So if we were to speak into context, what was being investigated at some point where you have this intuition, this feeling that you were, I have this high intuition of feeling, and it basically sums it up in dreams. So I had dreams about something happening, foresight, and it's just that my intuition is pretty high, and I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen, but it's to the point where it just felt that way. And to be honest, a long time ago, yes, I did perceive something that was going to happen, and it did. So right now, it's sort of just the fact that I'm being careful with what I'm actually saying and what I'm actually trying to teach out there. But to be honest, in all truth, I am not hiding anything, So to continue with this, the only thing that I guess at some strange point in my life I did, sell and traffic drugs, but that was a long time ago. And basically I'm just being open about that because it was a long time ago, and it wasn't even that much. It was like, I would say, I don't know, I don't want to get into detail, but yeah, I'll just put it at that. But it wasn't to the point where it's like loads, it's just like the literal small boxes of stuff, and that was it. But yeah, so if we were to just talk in truths in that was the only thing that I'm, I guess, just open about. Like, if something was trying to investigate, you know what I mean? So I wanted to continue along just the book, and basically this book is just a lot of good adventures that I used to have, and just it's safe to say that I've actually moved on from it. It just picks up a really good story, I mean, and then teachings and learnings about self-growth and who you are, and basically just not being afraid of expressing that. And with all due respect, given the fact that I'm open and I'm proud and I no longer have any weight to carry, I moved on, and basically it's time for the next step. You know, I'm ready to actually get out there and just put this out into the world that you could do it, and just help motivate others as well. And yeah, just reflecting back on my previous videos again, I know it might have caused some like stir up, and maybe some people might get things the wrong way at the way I talk and like express things, but I'm getting better. Honestly, I'm reflecting back on the previous videos and correcting them and trying to actually speak it in a more professional way. It's not to actually discourage or like try to hurt people out there. It's okay, I guess the way that I said it came out wrong, but it's just to be like, okay, I'm defending myself, and this is a way for me to actually be myself. And you know, it's not respectfully, not to like hurt anybody, but to just basically defend myself. And it's the way that I said it was wrong. Okay, so let's just put it at that. So if we were to continue the story, let's go ahead and do that. And since I have time right now to actually open up and just be like, okay, if you are basically the window to that soul, how would you express yourself in a way where the eyes would actually understand you, so that way there's no misinformation and misunderstanding anymore? Well, this is probably it. This is probably the best way for me to actually express myself in a way where it doesn't have to interfere with my mind or my heart at that, but it's basically a self-expression where it's like, this is who you are, and you're being direct and you're being honest. And this is how I actually want to be in like this state moving forward. So yeah, let's continue. Part two. The title of part 2 is The Imbalance of Duality. What is the two things that make a whole? I remember creating a song a year ago on my journey. This song depicts a female rapper. She is very reluctant with that speech, but what is it that causes an imbalance to duality itself? Light and dark. I watched a video that Amanda Ellis, a former YouTube channel that I follow, she documented 2 wolves in a forest, one black and one white. So how much do you feed both? She asks. Definitely the same amount. We need both to survive. In pure conscious reality, we're all made up of both. We cannot exclude one from each other because the universe is meant to expand with both. Did you know that the best creativity comes from utilizing our shadow, and the best ideas come from utilizing our light? It's having the two opposing forces intertwined that makes up who we truly are. So if greed, ego, and emotion make up the shadow aspect of ourselves, look at the other side of the coin and look at humbleness, pride, and confidence. It's very clear to see that this influences a person's behavior, whether it is good or bad. How do you get to know yourself really? Spend an incredible amount of time with yourself alone. Then you can start to see the middle of the spectrum. You're located in the middle of yin and yang. That is the best answer to the mystery of the whole. You aren't able to recognize it in plain sight, but more on experience. Seeing isn't really the term as opposed to action. It is time for the reflection to mirror back the truth of yourself. And now that time has finally slowed down to hear your true self think. What do you think it needs right now? I can argue the fact that during the last 2 years of the time, it was more focused on getting attention in the first year and knowledge on the second. And which year really progressed the most? Of course, it was the second. Many uphill battles and downfalls added another lesson in my book. And documenting every answer was the best thing or gift I got. Spiritually, thinking and feeling, none of the material things can really gift the things with wisdom, because if you can't survive the forest, you can pretty much survive anything life throws at you. And the top test for surviving anything is surviving yourself. If you were put in a room with all of your different personalities and learned how to get along with them, then that's more progress than anyone can imagine. I know who the dominant center is. The one that will never change. The unique identity that will always be there no matter what. She is why I wake up with a purpose, and that is the reason why I chose her to lead myself out of the repetitive cycles that go nowhere. She knows her potential, and she knows how much this helps everyone else in a way that can flow universally aligned. Aligning yourself is really important, especially if you realized how much you've outgrown pieces of you that's meant to be in the past. Ask yourself, am I going to stay stuck, or am I finally going to move on? And move on she did. As a voice of the higher self turned into a scream from a whisper. Can you describe who you really are when you look into the mirror? Yes, I can. I can. You say yes, you can. I am an opportunist. I am an opportunist in the most wild ways never imagined. A poet with emotions hidden behind a calm, collected mask. And how do I find my center? By being one with nature. Nature holds the biggest secrets in the world, but learning to stand still with it, nurturing your body, is the only way to understand it. So to understand myself or yourself is the same thing as understanding nature. Nature is truly the key in unlocking the mystery, and Mother Earth has always provided the nature of the wild with pure intentions. We need and will always be one with nature, as natural and endlessly healing how silent I can be when I am one with nature, and the oxygen that fills my lungs with the air that I breathe in the forest is the reason why I am grateful. And looking at the reality of things didn't seem to matter, as the beauty of nature had reminded me why I was meant to be here. A simple reminder in all the ways that prolonged the nature of human beings to realize what actually matters. I had to ask my friend along the way, what do you favor more? Quote unquote, people or things? And he shrugged his shoulders and said, quote unquote, people. But the weight of the actions was somewhat shock. I believe that maybe there is a consequence to both, as when the universe expands like a flashlight, the more we evolve, but the beauty of nature stays the same and will always remain the same. So to answer that question, it is non-existent, because the nature of things will always be the one true source that will never change unless we destroy it. So the fact of the matter is that somehow along this journey we get tempted or distracted from the one thing that truly matters, and it's safe to say that I've finally caught the pattern. There's always a balance when it comes to play with reality. Finding a balance between structure and my free spirit was the biggest battle I had to overcome. There is a structure, such as building a foundation from discipline and getting work done with a certain aspect in life. If you are like the fool in a deck of tarot cards with no direction, how are you ever going to get to where you want to be in life? This is just one of the many illusions that life will throw. In some course of action, the best method is to create a balance. Fundamentally speaking, I did create a graph that can benefit and help you understand. So this graph, would you picture family, project, self-career? Since the 21st century has naturally progressed and evolved over the ages and ages of trial and error, the balance really is a summarization in nature today. A percentage of each on a daily basis or even throughout the course of the week is somewhat a normal balance, but since we have to share different realities in some definition of myself in this universe, my balance was a perfect imbalance of the structure. I wanted to test this graph by utilizing a structure that has barely been used, and I call it the thought process. The thought process is something where thought would turn into action, and when I tested this theory, a lot has been revealing when a thought turned into 3D. This had helped me determine how fast I can write a 250-page book. Since it takes me 120 hours to write a 50-page book, everything else started to make sense. The more you observe the thought process into physical reality, the more your manifestations come to life. So let's look at this graph now. This is a graph of the thought process, and you see we're coming from the normal basic aspect of balance to the thought process. So the thought process actually directs your thinking into something that'll actually be in third dimension. So your thought process can actually manifest the things you want in life. So if you point that out, it's like, I want to be creative, I will have it. I want this love or relationship, and I will have it. I want this career, and I will have it. I want to master the self, and I will have it. And there you go. It's basically an affirmation. And this affirmation, if repeated every day, will actually transform that into your reality. So in a sense, if we're talking about this, I'm wanting to manifest something that I am trying to practice and get better in. So basically, since I'm making that effort, that I'm manifesting something that I want to bring out to life, and this is basically to motivate and inspire and to write. This thought is actually coming into action as I'm talking to you right now. And all of these ideas with the thought process is basically forming into a way where you get better and better at it. And then once it actually develops or forms in the right timing when it's ready, then you're ready. So to get this back into organization, the more you learn about things you actually want in life, the more your thought process becomes clear. And when it does somehow form from where water has once previously dropped for it to grow, you can manifest basically. So if your thought process is aligned correctly with who you are, it will be able to grow and manifest itself. If it is not aligned with who you are, you catch yourself in a loophole that gives you everything you don't actually want. I would describe the mind like a map where the body follows. To navigate what suits your best interest is doing things that you love. The version where the path of least resistance flows and follows is like a ladder to the potential of what you are passionate about. And I just wanted to pause there. A spiritual awakening. Basically, a spiritual awakening is when you realize that you no longer love the job that you keep doing. You no longer love the relationship you are in. You no longer love the past life that you was at, and now you're just transformed into someone that you want to be, and that's your spiritual awakening. You know what kind of relationship you want in life. You know what you want, basically, and you're gonna go after it. And it's not gonna be hard this time. It's not gonna be hard for you to actually chase after what you want. The essence of patterns of yourself is sort of like a map of yourself and what suits your best interests. Getting to the North Star is easier now. So if I were to draw the most logical ladder that suits my best interest that will somehow get to the North Star, it is quite simple if it gets the best of both worlds. That being in the middle of duality, where it is of service with myself and with others. The key word to be of service is to utilize your time with yourself and with others. Part of the main reasons on how humanity and quote-unquote society creates an equal balance within the circle of duality is to actually be of service. Yes, during the time that I had journeying, I did observe the 3 elements of work. The work that actually leads somewhere, that promotes growth. Number 1, what works for the self? Find something that flows well with your energy and something that feels less resistant with yourself if it sparks your creativity and individuality even better. Number 2, what works for community, where teamwork builds a much stronger and effective foundation. Many heads are smarter than one. And then number 3, what works with nature? Again, nature in all aspects is the most important thing that keeps the boat afloat. Are you bringing nature into the picture? Is it feeding the earth with a healthy balance, or is it really working for the money? Money is paper, but if nature would deplete all of the trees it provides, then the things would seem to be non-existent. I see true potential in many avenues and fields in whatever I do, but if I were to include all of the 3 major parts of work, then I'd literally be flowing like water in everything that I do. So, many times I observed countless methods of doing this and doing that, and I am going to follow the method that works best with me. This is a true essence that starts with getting in the right direction. If my shadow were to come back right now, which happens on a daily basis, taking wild rides to the dark side would be the very nature needed when dealing with boredom with the self. So if you're bored with the self, try to seek something that satisfies the senses within the 7 chakras. And I wanted to actually express something to that as well. 1 second. Another thing I wanted to point out is, if you feel at peace, okay, like if you feel at peace where it's not having a war within your body, you're not having a war with the outside forces, if you feel at peace with whatever that you're doing, that is going in the right direction. If you're feeling like it causes some friction or tightness, or like basically I have to do this feeling, or like something that you're very sort of resistant to, you know for a fact that it's not right for you, and it took me a while to get that, honestly. But trial and error is something that you must learn. So many times I observed countless methods of doing this and doing that, and I am going to follow the method that works best with me. This is a true essence that starts with getting in the right direction. Okay, so if my shadow were to come back right now, which happens on a daily basis, taking wild rides to the dark side would be the very nature needed with dealing with boredom with the self. So if you are bored with the self, try to seek something that satisfies the senses with the 7 chakras. As nature would have it, as natural as someone can reach it. So, as the mind manifests abundance in reality, any goal or accomplishment is very achievable. Many signs and synchronicities will start to make sense. Did you know this? Did I know this? Only the fact that experience and observation would take me. Bits and pieces all started to make total sense once the circle started to be visible. One self, one world, one connection, as connected as the branches of any living tree can have it. The reason why it reminds ourselves of the true source that exists within us. So why is it that a basic term called ultimatums exist? In reality, ultimatums were the term, you can't do this if you're going to do that. I wanted to challenge that status quo as I observed the many outcomes that stand before me. I wanted to challenge that to an extent that indeed, if it does fall into the self ladder, why not try and do them all? So if we were to channel back into the old soul that existed 10 years ago, we look and dive into the energy of the goddess of desire. We desire a thought into existence, and it happened quite quickly. The manner of using your thought into action will indeed manifest itself into reality. I want to forgive myself for doing the things that actually made total sense at the time, and the way it revolutionized the way of living that it manifested. This is indeed the key to the very identity that grew within myself, and the way it opened up different areas in a sense that feeds all of the senses. Therefore, it did start with an opportunity, and the opportunity was something I took action upon. So let's start with the latter. So the basic foundation, and as you could see it here, starts with self-interest. How do you get the self-interest to grow? Is to combine your talents with it. And then growing with the talents is basically, how do you learn how to get these talents to become better at it? Educate yourself with it. And then where does this education lead to a career that you actually love to do? And with this, if it works with you and you're vibrating in a sense of love, then nature in a sense is a service that for a fact is a service to the earth. And this is where growth happens. So I have a stable foundation to work with, areas of the self and service to others and nature. This is a basic foundation that seems liberating and easy to follow. Did you know that your mind can do that? Do you know how simple this is rather than going around in endless circles? I would imagine the self-discovery starts off alone in the sea with the many waves, luring the self into different traps that might seem like you, but it's just all an illusion to who you are. So if this does happen, draw a map of your mind that may seem complex, but it is literally the answer in navigating yourself when lost at sea. The energy started with the mirror of your soul. Do you see how many colors of light fit inside your spectrum? Does that, whatever that you are doing, fit the many avenues of the self? You'd know once you see and feel how easy it is flowing through you rather than against you. If you welcome the prototype rather than the real thing, then try again. Try again, because the center never moves. It will always remain the same. If we connect the patterns of life itself like it was a game, this is the moment of life when you know that the journey that never ever was a game in the first place. It is a moment when everything makes sense within the true core of Source. As I did create the molding of the past, the power to mold the present seems very possible. If you can think about it into existence, then it is the action worth going for. So why not test all of the possibilities? Just as long as it balances within the self, aligning with everything within you and people and nature. What is the probability of manifesting something that you want? If you see a high percentage, choose the best option. If it doesn't align with you at all, why is it even on your list? I observed well, and going towards what truly aligns seems like the best choice within, in simple matters of everything. So who is and what is the nature of your choosing as it aligns with who you are and what fits your best interests? Looking back, as duality played a huge role in life, it didn't occur to me the real self was 10 years ago. In fact, the illusion was a good experience, but it wasn't the actual statue. It was an experiment. In many ways, getting to the real thing. The real thing. What is the real versus the experiment? I experimented a lot of things that would define rap culture in a way that seduced the very core in my existence, with the way I lived and perceived myself, but the ideas that came after that was to the edge of the seat. At the time, I didn't wear a seatbelt and drove on recklessly like a NASCAR speed racer, and driving fast was what I did best, and that was a thrill I always longed to seek. Being in the driver's seat. So if flowers were blooming in springtime, that's about how fast I can pretty much do something in action. So I did the ASAP Rocky gear, excluding the gold teeth and fake gold chains. Baggy pants were and is trending, so opera had a dance with my joggers. Where was my mind at 10 years ago after the drama had led the nature of the shadow to do wonders? I manifested something that was out of context, anything out of the ordinary, but with it was a true calling of the core on what was an illusion. The definition of illusion is a mask to what was real. What was real? What seemed like what was real could be just all an illusion, so perhaps I scavenged away the very essence of material things back then, into thinking that it would fill up the parts of myself that I truly wanted, but most of it caused me to want more. The truth about what's real is the experience itself and the teachings of wisdom. The gold is a value that it brings, and in spirituality, this is where growth and self-development comes in. I became spiritual in a sense that it does not judge what is and what isn't. It is simply to be in the present and to reflect on what is learned. This, in some realms, have a physical plane and a spiritual one that can't be seen with the naked eye. It does not need to show proof of anything. It just is. It is everything in all existence. So I did move quite faster with everything all moving at the speed of light. But the truth of the shadow will never change, and the truth of the light will never change. It all comes into being as one with the source that exists with everybody. The moment I spoke my truth, a bee landed on my hand, and I could feel a burst of lightness strike within myself, taking away any doubts or worry that I had within anything I had ever encountered. It had this feeling that anything and everything is possible. So if the world is a playground you want to play in, what are the building blocks to that foundation? If it all depended on the root, which is you, what would you do? What would you do? I learned that with every action comes an equal or opposite reaction, also otherwise known as cause and effect. Butterfly effect, but without the flap of the wing. Would you be content with staying in the same place, or would you somehow rediscover the different possibilities that came with it? Again, as bold as it sounds, I love to challenge it. So I went where boldness lives. I went where curiosity led. Not using a map, but a map within the soul that Source created for me. And this ongoing journey, it is still cooking something new, something bold, and somehow something different from the norm. To settle down is a choice. To move beyond limits is the action. But where to play both roles is challenging. But balance needs to portray as the main factor in a game of duality. This is when it is needed most. 10 years ago, I was a top scholar and a side hustler, indeed an opportunist, seeking ways to earn more money, although the illusion was the material things it brought. It led me further away from the truth of myself. So I am a very good business person, but in reality, it was hiding my real talents. I mean, this is in a way where I was taking a lot of party drugs back then. Thought that it was good for right now, but not good for the future perspective. I looked at getting even bolder with things when I sold party drugs in all aspects, going to parties and raves back when raving was a thing. That definitely hit great markets and groups of people, and also the best things that occurred during the time I had what it led. Good money, fun party people, good times. But none of it was real. It was sort of like an illusion to the real potential that one could carry. The illusion was a temporary phase of party and money, the real thing that led to better choices and the character that defines the true self. So, identities that were within myself, I found. Not that I had hidden that, but it was a way to remind yourself who the true person really is without anyone around you. The journey to the soul is the same as the North Star. So if this is what enlisted the thought process into action, getting my friends with the reality of how broke we were at the time sort of made sense. It was just the value of thinking of a hustle that everyone wanted with getting some extra material exchange. For that time it was worth. We all desired something different, and we all desired something more. When the concept of thought happened, everything seriously flowed. We were helping each other in a different way. Not in a society way, but in a way that challenged every status quo in the books. Proud to say that adventure is over now, but I'd be willing to give a little more insight in volume 2. A sneak preview would just determine how this adventure compared to the thrill of it all. We would never settle for less, could we? And the things that was worth chasing after were abundance. Where was the abundance? And where is the abundance now? Growth. And the beauty of suns. The beauty of the sun, it stays the same. So can I ask you this? Can you tell a sunset from a sunrise? And I'll just stop it at that. The beauty of both suns, they stay the same. The beauty of both suns stay the same. They stay the same. The beauty of both suns. Okay, time to get creative now. With the ideas and the flow and the projects, we are slowly but surely putting this together in a way where it makes total logical and creative sense. So I wanted to mention a color. The color is black. Did you know that black actually matches with any color? I mean, I have to say this because most of the time, if people wanted to mesh black with or white, black or white with any color, it's just going to match because basically it's the way that the spectrum looks on the table. So if you were to put in side by side the color of black and the color of white to any color, it'll automatically look good together because basically it's how you look at those two. It's like a color that's very much always is. Like it's always going to be white and it's always going to be black. There's no hues. There's no different hues of the spectrum that could point it otherwise. And this is why dark and light is so important in life because it's always there. So if you were to actually develop yourself into a character and you know who the light and the dark is within yourself, then that's pretty much easy to navigate all the colors around you. That's one way of putting it as, and this is how I perceive things. This is how I perceive the colors of the spectrum to be, and black and white will never change. So the beauty of both suns stay the same. Let's continue this with some creative stuff. Right. So black. Let's look at black as something that might be something of the dark side of the soul. Black is the dark side of the soul where you don't know what is out there in the unknown, but it's like, to me, it's failure but reassurance. Your shadow basically is the black portion of you. It's your ego telling you that, well, if I do this, I mean, there's self-doubt, sort of just egoistic, sort of like I have to, of course there's foundations to get there. But then it's better to do that rather than just to stay stagnant and like not really having it go anywhere. So I would disagree and agree with that portion. But honestly, faith is something that you believe in and it'll work out without having to know the logic of it all. It's like you just have faith, and this faith is basically, if you believe it into a way to form it into existence, then there's literally no black in that, honestly, because you already know and believe that it'll happen. You know what I mean? And I trying to encourage myself, and I'm just gonna be honest, like I want to have more faith because I do believe in something, and it's just building up that faith to get there, So black, failure but reassurance. If I truly have faith in myself, then I must believe in something the logic does not understand. It's weird how the journey calls out for you when least expected, but maybe I was already feeling that it was coming. And what doesn't make any logical sense makes sense with your heart. And why the heart just screams louder than the ego or limitations. Why does the heart desire what doesn't make any logical sense? Or it just feels good without even thinking about it. Why do I feel good without thinking about it? It just feels so naturally good. And then when I feel with the heart, it quiets down my mind immediately and it takes me on another level. I myself was built in logic. I had graphed out my life in plans and backup plans all the time. But somehow, I guess, since I reincarnated, the soul is guiding me in places that was not discovered. A level that vibrates more than what everything I learned about in life, but on a spiritual level, And when I can get in touch with reality and my physical body, it connects the alignment with my mind, which then makes total sense. My sensory perception runs deeper than what my mind thinks or categorizes. On a soul connection, I am definitely in that particular state of mind of where I used to be, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's something I want. It's a feeling that I love, but my mind is not sinking into that. It actually gets lost. And I love my mind because it is the creator of everything that I love and want to accomplish. And if I am speaking in present tense, I want to succeed, don't I? I want to be the best version of myself, and in the ways where it doesn't make logical sense, it's good to get lost in it sometimes, but I don't want it to direct my life. I want it all to naturally happen without forcing anything to happen, and since I'm thinking about something new, I'd be willing to try anything new. It's as if the soul is dancing in a different way that the logic cannot help but watch. And as the logic watches, it cannot help but feel the way that soul is dancing. She's there. She's inside of you. She is you. Stepping into the arena, not knowing where this will lead. If I believe it, it will succeed. Looks like a path less taken, feels like my soul's awoken, and the gold token had landed on heads. Forget the blue and go for the red. And then I feel it in my bones to go where no one goes. Tap into my true power. People see that it's empowered. Rising every time I fall. Learning every time. Failing in all. So as the calling calls, do you answer the call? Do you take the risk even if you'd fall? And the light is there, holding in the unknown, faith to fore, firm belief that even when you grief, source is leading you to understand everything you say, who I am. I want to tap into that certain person again, something I need to defend. So as the rest has to fear to comply, I will always find reasons why. Why I believe we deserve more, why I believe this is worth rising for, to seek the truth against the odds, to say that homelessness was the cause, and I know for a fact that this calling is more than being overworked. And to know that this is something that is meant to be heard, to voice out what others might be frightened to do, to cast out what demons would do, and I believe that breakthrough, I believe that faith too, with powers that will come for you. You speak your truth, get it out of you. Like the wind, where's the wind? Where the breeze bent, where I move where the wind went. As I turn and slowly unwind, universe unwind, when I don't break but bend, mythical time is when I send myself back into the void, this feeling I cannot avoid. I set myself free against the limits and I can't go back in 3D. When 5D is waiting for me, let's go. Take me for this time, gets mooring. I wasn't done exploring. I can't lie to myself anymore. Bolder than suburbans, I need to roar. And too loud to follow sheep, I will always be the one who feels too deep. So move me before I sleep. If not, I'm awake again. So what I reap. The real me, the big deal. The bigger mindset, the smoky existence. Don't be afraid of something new. Who knows that it was always you? Miracles are coming and they are following. The moment you open up, runneth over the cup. I need more. As well, if I believe in trust, then I must believe in love. I have the key to unlock the mystery inside of me. I feel it underneath the rim of honesty. Patience. I had to stop myself from gallivanting. Maturity is all about timing. A delicate trade of service, I see. Openings birthing from the surface. Just knowing how many times I decide my time for what it's worth just pushes us on the edge until we go berserk. And I'm not going to stand still just to wait for the perfect moment to pass by. just to wait for an action for me to try. And I'm going on the edge of this, going where the full potential is. No matter what I risk, no matter how it is, I heard the timer inside the freezer of my old job. Noticing the amount of times I've been robbed. The first time I noticed the energy within thyself, if we are pushing through limits within itself. You have the beauty of an artist, a creative mastermind. Why not put most of the effort within that grind? Although the unknown is less taken from what others are used to, the answer of your character was always within you. I have a niche for empowerment since I carry the winner's lace. Untying myself in the first place, a gold medallion that I crumbled into bits, just so the little guys can get a piece of it. Don't I see it? Yes, I feel it. Not ignoring this feeling every time it hits. And it hits again like the last pitch. I hit a home run and it's coming up from this hitch. See it like a glowing glitch. Believe it more than being rich. It's more than abundance, it's more than growth. It's to power up the empowered soul. As you know, this star is red, red, red. I need to turn the Heineken bottle and hope it'll point your way. If the color of red is in stars, I'll believe them someday. Patience, I can see that power. I can remember. Patience, I can see that clearly. I don't need resistance to convince me. And if I see that in a person, that'll surely be a miracle, but it just all seemed like pinnacles. I'm honestly not feeling the ones tied to their heads. And maybe seduction looks good when it doesn't have to be in bed. I think thoughts are nice, but they carry me away. As long as I get it out, I have a little less to carry today. I have to organize the bed sheets and clean out the fridge. Here in the pod share co-living I'm in. And although the thoughts linger again, I need to find answers in passing trends. Organize the structure and acknowledge the feels. Don't need a fantasy to tell me what is real. That's how I feel, and maybe just as long as I got black and white. I need to get out of the rabbit hole whenever I write. Midnight, and this is daylight. I'm on it tonight when thoughts take flight. 4-leaf clover, yesterday is over, protected my life, yet the penetration kicks in if I ever decide to let anyone in. Tough skin in this city I'm in. Don't need labels like vehicles VIN. I just need to remember this December, where thoughts change like the moons with emotions in tune. Patience. So that's pretty much it. That's it for today. I'm going to keep this consistent from now on and just see where it goes. You have a good one. Good day.